tips, tricks that you need to know. And a ton of you asked for this, so let's do this. Hey yo, how's it going everyone? Entropy here today with another video. Today we're going to talk about some new ideas you probably need to consider to do well in the stride format. So let's start with basics. What is stride? If you're grade 3 or greater and it's after first player's 4th turn or second player's 3rd turn, after your ride step, you gain access to something called a stride step, where you may choose one or more cards from your hand with a sum of grade 3 or greater, discard them to stride for additional names, skills, and power. Note that when you stride, you will draw 1 card and triple drive on attack at the very least. So that is very powerful indeed. In order to ease the cost of striding, besides efficiently using grade 3s, you also have access to stride fodders. Now, these are grade 1s for now, that act as grade 3s in hand when discarded for the cost of striding. And in addition, on place, when you can discard a card to search the G focus grade 3 of the clan. For example, Gear Chronicle has Chronojet search, Royal Paladins have Altmaul search, and Kagero has Blade Master search. In addition to striding, we also have new grade 0 triggers. Now, it's a completely new concept in Zero. Before, we used to just allocate triggers to the grade 3s in our deck. Now grade 0s share a spot with our grade 3 lineup. So instead of just 13 grade 3s, you could play a mix of grade 3s and grade 0s. The difference is these grade 0s have dedicated a trigger associated to it because they have related skills attached to them. So for example, grade 0 heals acts as heal guards. These act as 15k shields on defense. You have crits that acts as critical heart support. So these go into the soul and gives your Vanguard plus 5k and a draw if your Vanguard is the name that is associated with the G focus grade 3. So for example, Chronojet or Altmaul. On defense, they also let you draw 1 card. We also have returning stands that return to the deck and lets you do more shenanigans on conditions related to the clan. So for example, the Narukami one returns to the deck, countercharges 1, draws you 1 when you retire something. And of course you have others down the line as well. So there's a bunch that will come down the line. So for example, Brawlers did get a critical that supports their own scaling kind of concept. One last thing is that there are new PGs. So we had 2 different types of PGs before, one with 2 activation conditions, one with more LB break ride centric kind of concept where it only procs when you are about to die. And the new type is similar to the second type, but they also give you an additional countercharge component to it. When you're using this PG, there is an additional copy of itself in the drop zone, you get a countercharge 1. Definitely will help you out in some tight situations. Now, let's move on to the actual nitty-gritty of this video. The reason why you clicked to this channel after all, the strategy, right? So how impactful is the mechanic? Legions versus strides. Now, this is one of the videos I made before G actually launched, and I still think it's worth watching because the conclusion is quite fair. Most decks grade 3 lineup play both stride support and legion support, but this is not the definitive case. So in general, for example, Chronojet decks, you still play the Gear Chronicle Legion. For example, in a Blade Master deck, you see a lot of lists playing the Great. In some meta decks, like the Cross DX and Bermuda Triangle, they are still very much Legion focused decks and they can still perform very well. Now, it is important to note that even though there are exceptions like the Cross, it doesn't mean that stride is not important, right? There is literally no reason not to play these grade 4s. There's no reason not to play 4 Root Flares. I know it's expensive, but 4 Root Flares mean 2 more options during your ride phase or stride phase. And even though the Cross's winning image does not need it, during your turn, there's no other relevant options in your stride deck anyways. You might as well have it. It's better to have it than not. And what stride gives you is the opportunity to toolbox. So Legion is still good, but there's no reason not to play strides is the point I'm trying to make. There is a new dimension to guarding in Zero. This is a new skill checkpoint because now the difference in power actually matters more, specifically in 15k increments, and I'll explain why. The guarding priority in the game works as follows. First of all, if you're on defense, you only need 15k or less shield in order to defend yourself, you use heal guards. Then, if it's more than 15k, you use a PG. If it's less than 15k shield, but you don't have enough heal guards, then you use a PG. And if you don't have PGs, then you will proc multiple heals. So 15k and then 30k and then 45k and then 60k, I guess. And if not, if you don't have any heals or PGs, well, unless you have a specific condition like Shiryuki, you're dead. There are, of course, more tools and support in G, including strong keywords like resist and guard restricting, particularly a new type of guard restrict that restricts grade 0 guarding. So definitely keep that in mind in the interaction. And of course, recognizing your opponent's options when breaking through their defense will no doubt give you an edge. Oh yeah, this is an added layer of defense. So definitely consider the interactions with other mechanics like triggers as well. Some triggers might give you more value than ever before. So definitely experiment and see for yourself. Speaking of triggers, it is important to talk about deck building because that is part of the game after all. You still have that 39+1 card deck, of course, with strides now. But now that you have a shared space between grade 3s and grade 0 triggers, you really need to find your own balance depending on the deck, the clan, and your playstyle. Grade 0 triggers have insane value overall, either that's guarding, either that's pressure with crit, or recycling with the stand triggers. But you do need to ride up to grade 3 after all, and you do need grade 3s to efficiently stride anyways. So it really depends on the deck, it really depends on the playstyle. Find what works for you. Decks that have more draw power, and can make more use of, these grade 0 triggers, I suppose in theory would play less grade 3s. Decks that need more draw, just don't draw in general, will need more for consistency's sake. And some other components could be consider playing grade 3 searchers instead of other skill starters, and this is quite common in many builds nowadays, so that is definitely something to consider, like Aquaforce if you checked out the recent topping lists. But lastly, let's talk about the meta in terms of the game itself outside of the game. I don't know how to shape this, but the G era update introduces Card Capital 2, so you have different types of character fights, story mode, G missions, and more. And in terms of aspects that really affect gameplay, I think it's materials. There's an overall buff in triple rare and below max, but GRs are overpriced, and there's no way to avoid it. But one more thing that they did introduce is universal mats, I guess. Universal mats can be exchanged for clan mats, but not vice versa. Only common crafting material like the slab thingies can be traded in, and there is a way around it though, so consider the following. The strategy is to pre-craft G-era units with OG mats that you expect to pull, so the game would treat the additional ones as duplicates, and then give you universal mats instead. So in other words, for example, if I'm going to G set 1 and I have 4 triple rare mats for Kagero, I would pre-craft the cross, and then for each of the cross I pull from the gacha, those would immediately become universal mats, which I could not exchange for before. This is an indirect way to exchange OG mats for universal mats, and it does come with its own risks, right? Like, just because you pre-crafted them doesn't mean you will pull them, so that is something to definitely consider. Another thing to consider is rarity. It's easy to do this for commons, but it's definitely harder to do it for higher rarity. Of course, down the line, because the triple rare, double rare, and rare mats, it's all cheapened, definitely consider the value yourself, consider how much you have. If you have abundant, then maybe you'd value clan mats, the universal mats more. If you don't have as much, maybe you would value clan mats more, but it really depends on your own account. I can't really give you a general statement. What I can say is how it works and one strategy you can consider. As for events, clan events are definitely very viable out of the box, so save your stamina and grade ups especially, and consider your one free G skin medal as an investment for the bonuses that you get for clan events instead of simply aesthetics. If you want aesthetics, you can do the dice events. The most recent dice event, I'm free to play all the way, and I did manage to get all 3 free skins. We don't know if those give bonuses yet. I personally don't think so, but you never know. But for aesthetic's sake, rely on the dice events for now. That G skin medal, care about the clan event bonuses because those really make a difference. You can check out my Nova and Narukami clan event builds. Well, definitely they could be improved upon with some other support from way back when. They're still definitely very strong out of the box. And important to note is that with Nova, you know, Chrono does get that bonus, and Chrono is a free skin. And Narukami, I did not exchange my G skin medal yet. So as you can see, with a similar amount of commitment with the bonus, I could get 1 or 2 more generation rares. So again, I just really want to emphasize G medal skin, not just for aesthetic's sake, please, especially if you're a free-to-play player. Definitely consider the gameplay implications down the line. There's a lot more that I would love to cover, but let's just leave it at that because I am tired of hearing myself talk as well. Let me know if you have any other tips and tricks that I didn't cover. I'm sure many players, including myself, would love to see more different perspectives and experiences too. Before we end this video, I'd like to give a special thank you to Nova Grappler Kanui for continually supporting this channel by being a member. It really means a lot, and I hope, you know, if you have the means, you could support the channel as well. Like the video if you liked it, of course. Subscribe if you haven't already and want to see more, as I'm going to be doing a lot more content in the future, and I hope to entertain and help you with your Vanguard journey too. So I guess I'll strat you later, and see you all soon. Bye.